Hey everybody, welcome back to On Stage, Off Stage. I'm your host, George Sapio, and I want to wish all of you a happy new year. Because I am forever the eternal optimist, blowing bubbles and whatnot, I am hoping that this year we can find ways to make things better for every single person on the planet. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if we actually started to heal, to build bridges, to treat everyone's differences as opportunities to become closer rather than farther apart? That's my wish for 2024. Let's see if we can make it happen. It'll be so good. You may have noticed our new theme music. This composition is called Don't Worry, Be Frappy. I just love that title. It's by Max Dickinson, an extraordinary musical talent from England, and we here at On Stage, Off Stage think it sets a funky new tone for a new year full of possibilities. All right, so let's get to it. Our guests this month are Jan Carpman and Mary Ann Nichols Hubbard, the movers and shakers behind Playzoomers, a live online theater company founded in 2020. They present over 20 full video plays per year on Zoom, from full-length plays to multiple short plays, featuring professional theater artists. As of this broadcast, they will have produced and aired over 100 plays. Wow, talk about busy, huh? So much to cover. I just want to kind of dive right into it. How long have you been doing this? When did Playzoomers start? How did you get around to this?
This is Jan. It started in March of 2020, which may sound like a familiar date and time.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't that coincide with a little bug that went around?
Yeah.
That was pretty soon for the two of you to jump on the Zoom bandwagon, wasn't it?
It might have actually been, this is Mary, might have actually been April, but we were talking, Jan and I were talking at home, not being able to go to work, and I was telling Jan that my daughter, who had been a college actor, had reconnected with her college acting friends, reading Shakespeare plays, and doing it on Zoom. And Jan said, well, couldn't we do something like that? And yeah, I guess we could. Let's put together a list of people who might be interested. They're probably stuck at home. And we had a first list of about 13 people, including one playwright, sent it out. And that's how we got started.
That's incredible. Have either of you ever done recorded theater work before meant for audio publication?
I've, as a professional radio person, I've recorded a lot of audiobooks, outside of my long running radio announcing gig. And I've also, way back when, I've done radio dramas. We took on touring on college campuses back in the 70s. So yeah, done a lot of recording work.
So you're the technical expert for all of this.
Well, I had enough skills to get us going, at least.
Okay. March or April of 2020. At this point, this is coming up on 3.5 years distance for Playzoomers, and you've already cleared your 100th or 101st play. That's truly remarkable. Do you sleep? Do you eat? Do either of you work? How do you manage to solicit, produce, cast, record 100 plays? I mean, in 3.56 years, that's remarkable.
Well, I think this is Jan. I think the answer is the answer that everybody gives, rightly so, when they are complimented on a great accomplishment, which is they couldn't possibly have done it by themselves. And we didn't either. We started with each other and with the actors and single playwright, as Mary mentioned, and then it grew. It grew and grew and grew and grew, and we figured out what we needed and how to get it. And starting with plays, and then when you ask how we get the plays, we do calls for scripts.
Sure.
And when
Yeah.
we do calls for, and you've responded to one of our calls, George. So you know how that goes. And people send in scripts. Mary's in charge of the literary committee, which does the vetting of the scripts. And that's how we choose individual plays. And also now our calls for scripts are thematic calls. So when we get scripts in response to those, we know they will all go together as holiday plays or plays about imperfect love or plays about theater, things like that. So that's the answer to that one. In terms of directors and actors, a lot of it is who you know and who they know, which is the way it always is. But also we use the website backstage.com and get lots and lots of responses from that. And then we vet those as well. And in terms of audience, you start with who you know and who they know and who the actors know and the playwrights know. And that also snowballs a bit. So, we figured out all that stuff. We figured out that we needed to be a nonprofit. We needed to have a board, all of that.
You're not kidding around with this.
Oh, no, why should we be? No, this is a professional company and we do professional productions and we handle things professionally. Yeah, this isn't, hey, kids, let's put on a show. No, this is not
that. Totally. So in the very earliest days, George, this is Mary, we, again, just had that initial group of about 13 people and one playwright, but Jan found the New Play Exchange, which is how we started doing other plays. I also had some playwriting friends back from my Washington, D.C. days when I worked for a wonderful, now defunct organization called New Playwrights Theater. So I knew some playwrights from those days. And one member of that group in August of 2020 said, really like what you gals are doing. What would it take to get you to the next level? And we said, well, we were doing Zoom meetings. We had looked into webinars, but it was not in the budget. And so we told him the number. He said, okay, well, would this amount of money help? And it's like, yeah. And so in September of 2020, we started upping the game. And then, then the technical things started to blossom. And it really, 2020 and 2021 were pretty crunchy times for theater. So we really did have a lot of people who weren't doing live theater. The challenge came a little bit later when live theater started happening again, maybe the summer of 2021. It was sort of on again, off again. You'd have a play that would open and then it would close because of COVID or whatever. But so it's been figuring out as we go along. But it's just been on a path of growth. And as Jan said, people who know people, the word of mouth has been really great from actor to actor, director to director. Jan has also been super proactive on training workshops like directors training. How do you presume it's really different?
That. Yeah.
And I want to say, echo what Mary, is saying about, we call them our angels. We had, several angels who put money up. Some of them didn't even know us. And that's the part that just totally blew our minds. They said, sounds like a good idea. It seems that you're reliable people, and they gave us money. And that it's like the Emily's List slogan, early money is like yeast. That early money was yeast for us. And it enabled us, to jump ahead and do things that we needed to do. And donors are our lifeblood also, because you cannot run any theater company on ticket prices alone. So we rely on donations, and we're starting to go for grants as well.
And Jan has always Jan has always been really proactive, and we got to pay these people. And it's like, with what? But when we started charging, that would have been, I think, February 2021. It was nice to be able to give, it wasn't much, but a stipend, at least to the actors, directors, and tech people. and playwrights, of course. So that's always been, and we'd like to be even, pay even more if we have the funds to do so.
That's the hard part in theater, is having the funds to pay people, because I know from community theater experience, it's, hey kids, let's put on a show.
Yeah.
And a lot of people show up because they love the part, they love working with everybody else. They just love being on stage, or they love doing lights, and you're feeding their passion. And in a lot of cases, that's okay. You know what? I don't need any money, or whatever we pay them is small, an honorarium, we call it. And it's just a pittance, but it's a way of showing thanks and respect, and to honor the people who've put in countless hours learning lines and making the thing happen. So yeah, theater, for actually getting paid for doing theater, to me has always been, what's this money for? It's, why is there a check made out to me? I don't understand. Well, oh, really? So
I agree. And we also find that when people are being paid and being treated as professionals, they act as professionals. And we need to count on them. They need to count on us. It's an exchange, and we're very clear about that. And for the most part, haven't had serious problems.
Jen is really the business guru of the whole thing. I probably would have been fine with just reading plays among friends for a while, but Jan said, nope, let's, incorporate in the state of Massachusetts. Let's go for the 501c3 so that we're a charitable nonprofit. Right. And it's like, oh, okay, sure. Yeah. I'm fine with that. But that was really, Jan is our executive director for a reason. And it's really, it's been incredible how this has grown, thanks to, we're both still working. I do a radio job 2 days a week, and Jan is now an independent contractor in her very professional wayfinding business. But it is a business. I remember many years ago, it's show business. And a lot of people don't remember that business part.
That's the hard part to remember, because theater never does seem, unless you go to one of the major theaters that have, a $70 million budget every year, where they run 2 or 3 separate venues, it never does seem like a business.
Well, I guess Jan never lets us lose sight of that, but I'm glad to say, no, it's good. We always try to more than make our expenses for each show. So, we just try to be artistically interesting and fair to all the artists involved.
Respectful. I think the money part, George, is not just, this is our appreciation, but this is a measure of our respect for you as a professional playwright, actor, director, and we have other people, graphic designers and administrators, other people working with us, and we need their professional work as well. And so it's a good way to do that. And then I mentioned we're starting to get and apply for grants, and any granting organization wants to know, do you, are you a nonprofit? Do you have a board?
Yes.
What other grants have you gotten? Show me your list of donors. And, we have all that.
And how are you going to spend the money that we might, grant you?
Right. So, starting from pretty much nothing, we went on good faith and goodwill and generosity, and we've been able to build all those things. And so that's thrilling, because it puts us in a place where we can, we're always looking to do something creatively challenging and new and different, and what can be done with this medium of online theater, because for the most part, not a whole lot has been done with it other than streaming live plays.
Amazingly enough, yes. And one of the things that surprises me over the past couple of years is Zoom stock has been going steadily down. I've been watching it over the past couple of years because I thought this was going to shoot through the roof. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's on a Zoom. businesses are doing it, theaters doing it, friends are talking, and the stock has continued to tank consistently over 3 years, which surprises me. I have absolutely no idea how or why. But the thing that does surprise me about it is, even if it's not Zoom, some other app, some other application has yet to come through that is dedicated to theater, where you can do scene changes, faux scene changes, where you can change backgrounds, where you can make things happen stage wise in a virtual situation. And I am waiting for that technology to come through, because when it does, I'm going to be all over it.
Some of it is already there, George. As soon as we knew about virtual backgrounds, that's when it became important for our actors to have decent cameras. They had to have good webcams. They had to have a big green screen that wasn't wrinkled. They needed to be able to, we do things with, I remember people were like, oh my God, they passed cups. And it really looked like they were passing cups from one actor to the other. But, there are ways, there are techniques of, making you really feel in the scene, in the moment, but there are limitations. I wish that we could do better job with, fading in and fading out. That's not a Zoom thing we can easily do yet. But, as much as the tech allows, we really try to bring you into the scene. And sometimes if it's not a virtual background, we have done a situation where we live streamed a play where a set with a grant was built especially for this play. The actors were paid from the grant. They had 3 cameras, and that was a little bit of an experiment and a departure for us, but it's something we hope to be able to do again. So I think we really do try to push the envelope when we have the availability of our best tech directors.
Yeah, it sounds more like you're getting into filmmaking in a sense.
It's sort of a crossover. Yeah, there's a crossover. We use videos, video introductions, intros, and conclusions, outros. We use sometimes videos as scene change information, all of that. So yeah, I think there's some crossover there. But like you, we would love it if anybody within the sound of our voices is a tech person who would like to come up with a technology that would be built for online theater. Zoom was never built for that. We would be the first ones in the virtual door.
Yep.
I'm sure it would go like hotcakes. So why everybody likes hotcakes, I still haven't figured out. But are you surprised that you are where you are now, considering your mindset when you started?
I'm not surprised. This is Mary, because of Jan's brilliant leadership. When Jan decides she wants to do a project, she is 150% in on that. And I happily help out and do my thing. And my thing in this case is, vetting the plays, being in touch with the playwrights, being in touch with the vetters. What happens, for example, Jan had put out a call for holiday scripts last spring. And so there was a drop dead date when they all had to be in. So we had 180 holiday scripts, shorter ones, usually 10 to 20 minutes. And so Jan said, okay, they're all in, here they are. We have an assistant. And I said, could you please group all of these plays in alphabetical order in groups of 10, and I had half a dozen vetters. I would send those plays out to the vetters. They would say, okay, I like to play 1, 5, and 7. So I would read the ones they liked and would not, if they had said no to the other ones. And so, but that still left us with about 35 or 40 plays that needed to be read for the holidays. And so the nice thing is we actually got more than enough for this year.
Right.
That's
And that
nice.
is nice. That's what we
Yeah.
do with some of these is we're trying to program way in advance if we can. So Mary, Mary underplays her contributions. Mary's contributions are significant because without the knowledgeable eye and ear and imagination of how will these words on paper translate
Hmm.
to a play on Zoom, and will it work?
Yeah.
Period. Will it work for our audience? Can we cast it? Can we find a good director for it? Is it within our technical capabilities? On and on. Those are critically important decisions. And thematically, what are we going to do over the course of the year? How are we going to develop our program? When are we going to do full-length plays? When are we going to do short plays? All of that. That's in Mary's court. So
You both have day jobs in addition to this.
yeah.
Well, but I'm not a 5-day-a-week commuter into Boston anymore, thank God. The pandemic sent me home. Actually, there was a period of 5 weeks when I was sent home. That's when Playzoomers got started because I had all this extra time on my hands until they figured out how to get my radio studio here at home.
Ooh,
And
that's a nice microphone. Wow.
Yeah, something you haven't asked, but I'll tell you anyway, is how did we become friends? How did we know each other? Because
I was going to get to that. That was a little later down on the list here, but no, let's go with it. Come on.
Jump the gun. Because starting, an endeavor, any kind of endeavor with someone you know and trust is a completely different thing than taking a chance on your partner. And Mary and I have known each other since we were 12 years old. And so we know and trust each other. We know how to communicate. We know how to do give and take, all of that. And that, I think, starting from the strength of a long, dear friendship also made this possible. It doesn't guarantee success, but you often hear stories of the original partners who have a falling out. That's the end of the organization.
Sure, yeah, that's common.
Yeah, but that's not the case here.
That's
that
wonderful.
Goes back to junior high school band and orchestra.
Right.
That's amazing. Congratulations to you both. Maintaining a friendship for a period of time is always a struggle.
And one very, very sweet thing is that our band and orchestra director from our junior high days is one of our most faithful attendees.
He just turned 90. He just turned 90.
Wow.
So
Good on him. That's
extremely
great.
Honored by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised you're well loved considering everything. I would like to, because we're talking about play production here now. Excuse me. But that's not the only thing you do. I'm looking through this list of things, and I can't believe there's only two of you. Really, we train online directors and hold table reads for playwrights with new work.
Yep.
Okay. Let's talk about training the online directors.
That would be Jan.
Okay.
Yeah. So directing an online play for us is different than directing an onstage play. That you have to do your auditions and have your actors and do your rehearsals and all of that. There's a lot of that stuff that's in common. But having it be online and having to come up, let's start with the idea of a Zoom script. Okay, so there are annotations that need to be made in the script that the actors get with regard to sound effects and music and like Mary said, physicality, passing of things, and which way to turn, which way to enter, which way to exit it, and when to turn your mic and camera on and when to turn them off. All those things are unique to Zoom. And after 100 plays, we've figured that stuff out pretty well. It's, of course, different for every new play that comes along, and that's what makes it interesting. But when we train directors, we go through all of that in great detail. We have a director guide, a written guide that goes into every part of the process, from how you work with the playwright to selecting your actors to working with the tech directors and on and on and on. And that's really, really important. We can't take anybody coming in the door who hasn't done this before without training. So we feel it's important to do that.
So your scripts end up sort of looking like screenplays a little bit, I would guess,
A
with
little,
all these
yeah,
notations. Yeah.
not quite as detailed as a screenplay, but we definitely need all the cues. Sometimes they're color coded, actor one, camera on, actor, and
Yeah, because this is video and tell, not just audio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the actors are their own tech people. And sometimes you get a really brilliant actor who has never done this before, and woof, there's a learning curve. There's a definite learning curve.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a new arena for most of us.
Yeah. But Jan has done director training. I'm usually the one who handles the table reads.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we started doing that. I guess our first table read would have been January of 2021. And sometimes we'll get a script that we think, I think this will work. I'm not 100% sure. Why don't we, I have directed a bunch of them. Why don't we get together a cast, have the playwright invite, a small audience who knows theater. And so that's pretty much how it started, with a handful of people. But I think one of the first plays that we did was one of our Berkshire, Massachusetts playwrights. He had a play about the pandemic, about people being on a cruise, 3 people on a cruise ship, when the pandemic is coming first to be known, and what happens to these 3 characters. And we thought, well, it's interesting. It's well written. The characters are very well developed, but it's on a ship. How do we do this? Again, this was early on into virtual backgrounds and stuff for us. So we got a director. She found 3 actors. We put it on. She got virtual backgrounds going. I think that was the first time we'd used them for that table read. And it's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, this is doable for us. And so other table reads that we've had, sometimes they've been short plays. Usually they've been mid-length and longer plays, but it provides, actually, we're seeing 2 functions of the table read. First, for us, is this something that we might like to fully develop as a full-blown Playzoomers production? But the second part is, playwrights sometimes have a very difficult time getting their work up there. And of course, seeing professional actors read your work, even if they've only had 1 or 2 rehearsals, is very valuable in and of itself. So, Jan, would you like to speak to that second part?
Yeah. And so there's a list of the table reads that we've done on our website, playzoomers.org. But one thing that we've decided to offer in the future is, for a certain budget that will depend on the length of the play and the number of characters and technical details, we will be open to having playwrights contact us who are interested in having a table read done, and we will contract with them to do it. So, and this would be online, of course, but that's something potentially interesting. I think most of the playwrights, if not all of them, who have had table reads done, have felt that they learned something valuable and have changed their scripts and, changed whatever they wanted to change after that. But it's a way of really seeing a 3-dimensional work, at least in the 2 dimensions that online provides with an imaginary 3rd dimension.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because hearing other people read your words for the first time, instead of just hearing them in your own head.
Right.
Yeah. And they also, and George, they also get a recording of it, and they can also invite whoever they want.
Yeah.
And one thing we haven't mentioned at all is we don't just present these plays, table reads, or full-blown productions. We have something called a talkback. I think, Jan, that was your idea too, to have the talkback, to have anybody want to stay after the reading. You could, either type or ask the playwright, the actor, the director, the producers, anything you wanted or make comments about the plays. It's been a bonding experience usually.
Do you set rules for the talkbacks? Do you set things you can do, can't do?
Haven't had to do any censoring so far.
Okay.
No. And we've had some, vast variety of plays, some of which have been political, so some of the discussions have been fascinating not just that political plays engender interesting discussion, but we've had some very, very enthusiastic, heated, interesting discussions, which I think was certainly beyond my expectation when we started having the talkbacks. And we do, so if we do 2 performances in a performance weekend, we will do a talkback after each one. Yeah. And they're different because the people involved.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Talkbacks are, and I'm using the word with air quotes, interesting, because I am such an avid fan of development. I mean, I even wrote a book on the subject, but all of my work goes through a development process, and readings and changes happen, and hearing it from other people's voices coming back at me makes me think about what I've done in different ways, because just because I wrote it one way doesn't mean it's going to be read that way.
Right.
And you get new perspective on this. And I look at talkbacks as possible fonts of new information about the play, and I'm always welcome to have that. But I've also, part of me also looks upon talkbacks and I get the shivers too, because some things can get, having people rewrite my play for me, which is not something I'm ever welcome to.
Yeah.
It's tricky, I think.
There's been a little bit of that with some of the table reads, but especially with an audience that includes other playwrights. George, what you just said is very much on their minds. It's like, I'm not going to be offering, strategic advice to this playwright because that's his work. I might have a couple of comments here or there, but some audience members just say, "No, I think that would have worked much better if that character had dressed in a chicken costume," and or whatever.
Yeah, my favorite one is your play needs zombies, and I'm like, thank you. I'm going to go back and put like a bunch of undead people in my play. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh God.
We've had some playwrights offer feedback after the talkback or after the table read in an email to the playwright. So it's not that all feedback has to be public. There are ways. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I want to move on to something else which I've been dying to get to. Act Me a Story. Now, producing storybook videos for under-resourced children of color. Tell me about this, because this sounds beautiful.
So I spent 40 years of my life in Michigan after I lived in Massachusetts and before I moved back to Massachusetts. So it was my sandwich place to live. And while I was there, I started and was active in an adult song and dance troupe for 25 years. And one of my song and dance partners, who became a dear friend, started an organization in Michigan to work with under-resourced children and families and teachers to promote literacy, because literacy is low in this town. It's a town outside of Ann Arbor called Ypsilanti. And I was an advisor to him as he was starting that organization. And one day he said to me, I think it would be great to have people read, to do videos for these children, but the people I'm getting to do it don't seem to be doing a very good job with it. Can you make some suggestions? And I looked at the videos and I could see why they weren't doing a very good job. They weren't making eye contact. They weren't holding up the book. They weren't reading with expression. They weren't taking on character voices and attitudes and all of that. And I thought, wow, I'm sitting on bunches of actors and directors, and you're sitting on kids who could use this, book videos. Why don't we figure out how we can work together? And that's how Act Me a Story got started. So it's a program. Since the kids that he's working with are mostly children of color, we felt it was important that they see actors who look like them. And who, so we have recruited actors of color and directors, and we have a whole program going. We have early childhood education experts who help us pick the books. And this is an ongoing program. We have a separate, kind of operates separately, but within Playzoomers, we have a supervising director and actors and directors, and we produce these videos. So it's very exciting, and they've been well received.
Excellent. That's an amazing accomplishment. You mentioned something which has always been an item that I try and bring up, and that is relevancy to the audience. You said finding actors that look like the audience. And I think that's always been a problem with theater, because especially in doing things like the old chestnuts, okay, they were written by a certain group, they were performed for a certain group, and we worry about getting new blood, new life, new youngsters into theater. And it's probably one of the hardest mediums to get people to attune themselves to, especially when nobody looks like them. And it's very, very difficult to engage an audience if it's foreign material. I mean, what does it matter to me? Why am I here? Why am I hearing this? Why should I care about this?
Yeah.
But when they see people that they can relate to and they can understand that whatever comes out of the actors' mouths has relevancy and is absorbed, and the audience responds to this with interest.
And accessibility, on one level, I think, George, is what you're talking about,
Right.
And that's another thing that Playzoomers has been doing, and it sort of also feeds into Jan's areas of expertise. Accessibility is something that we've really been fortunate to offer with Playzoomers. I mean, during the pandemic, very few people could go out. Certainly nobody wanted to congregate in a theater. So in that sense, we started off being accessible to people right there in their own homes. But Jan has taken it even a couple steps farther. Jan, if you'd like to speak to that.
Yeah, and then we'll get back to George's other point. We are letting people know that they can get closed captioning with our presentations. It is at this point automated closed captioning, which if you've ever seen, is okay, but not terrific. It sometimes gets homonyms confused.
It gets very interesting sometimes, yes.
Right. Yeah. It's better than nothing. One of the things that we're looking to fund with our grant proposals is more accessibility, like live closed captioning and sign language. And
nice.
Other ways that we can enable people with disabilities to engage in theater. One of the things that we have figured out how to do is to make our playbills accessible. Every show has a playbill, and we figured out how to do that so that they are readable by the screen readers that some people who are blind use. Yeah. So I think that's part of it. But in your question about, can you look at the plays and look at the actors and see something that you can relate to?
Yeah.
We do our absolute best to do that. We can't, unless we commission the plays, which we haven't done yet, make plays come in the door that don't come in the door. But when they do come in the door and they have something important or funny or relevant to the theme to say, and we produce them, we do everything we can to populate them with actors, the kind of actors that the playwright has requested. And that goes across race and across gender and across, sexual orientation and
and age too.
and age.
Yeah,
Right.
we had, I guess our oldest actor is 86 or 87. She did a full-length play with us earlier this year. And in September, we needed a bar mitzvah boy, and by golly, we got one, 14-year-old kid. So
nice. Yeah.
So we, we do our best. That is a goal of us to become more diverse in our plays and our actors and directors. And again, for the people listening, you have plays, you're interested in acting with us, let us know. All that information is on our website, playzoomers.org.
That's absolutely amazing.
And when you said before about producing the old chestnuts, I think in the 100 plus plays that we've done at this point in time, we have only done one play that was previously known.
Right.
None of them have been previously produced, but previously known. So most, if you come to a Playzoomers play, you will see something original, and it's likely that you will not have seen it before. And that's part of the attraction. Something else that we're trying to do with this kind of low ticket price and low barrier to participation, you can watch it in the comfort of your home. It doesn't matter about the weather. You don't have to worry about parking, all of that, is that some people are reluctant to attend theater because they're afraid. They want to stand it, afraid it'll be too expensive, afraid of the unknown, all of those things.
We make a big chance going to theater because it is expensive to fill those seats. And tickets aren't cheap. And even though it looks good, do you want to spend? Because you're probably going to buy food. You're gonna go out. You have to get dressed. You have to put pants on, first of all.
You may have to get a babysitter.
Exactly.
It's all of that. None of that is relevant to what we do. And so part of the audience that we're looking to attract are people who, to bastardize some current language, who are theater curious. who are
I love it.
Saying, I kind of always wanted to watch play, but I didn't want to spend the money. I didn't want to travel, but for less than $20, if I can do that, okay, I'll give it a try. And we hope, of course, when they try and they like, and then there's a talk back and there's a play bill and there's, and we're very friendly. They'll come back.
Before we go, I really want to talk to you both about something in your personal lives. Mary, you list yourself as executive director of the Heart of Taunton.
Oh, that was a while back, yes.
Okay, but it says you are improving the cultural and aesthetic environment for downtown Taunton. And I'm sitting here thinking, you've been hired to do a remake of an entire city downtown. How would you even go about that?
Well, fortunately, when I came in, I was the third executive director. There was a very big movement in the 90s and the early 2000s for the U.S. Main Streets revitalization. A lot of beautiful, smaller cities and towns, perhaps they had been bypassed by major roadways and the downtowns were in trouble. There was this national movement to really have people take on the problems of downtowns that were faltering. And so that's pretty much what I did. I used my cultural background to this little city of Taunton, 50,000 people, was known as the Christmas City. So my very first task was to put on a lights on festival where the green was decorated mostly by town workers and high school kids in shop classes. And I had to organize all of the entertainment at the various buildings around the center of town. And then we had a concert series in the summer. So it was a lot of cultural stuff as well as working with the shop owners and the storekeepers, and trying to come to agreements on, what can we do? Banners, new trash cans. I mean, just working with the shop owners, the city government, and the cultural folks to try and make people come to downtown Taunton and go like, oh, this is pretty. This is nice. There's a reason to come downtown. That was, so I did that for 3 years in between my longer running radio gigs.
That's incredible. How did you manage to budgetize something like that?
There were people who were members of the Heart of Taunton. It was mostly downtown businesses, a lot of banks and hospitals, and insurance companies were the ones that, put the most in, that paid my salary. And, I had to grow the membership to bring in the money for that. But of course, we did a good amount of theater when I was there. Made sure that we had a lot of theater as well as music and concerts and stuff.
Neither one of you is much of a lazy bones. I mean, I feel like I should check into a retirement home as soon as I get off of here. The fact that you both do so much. Jan, okay, I don't know what wayfinding is, and I've never heard of an architectural sociologist, but it sounds way cool.
Well, the idea, I'll start with the second part. An architectural sociologist deals with how people deal with the spaces that we're in, and how spaces can be designed to accommodate the behaviors that take place. So think about a hospital. How does a hospital need to be designed so that patients and visitors feel comfortable, that doctors have a place to gather and talk and do their jobs, that nurses have a place to be off stage for a while so they're not constantly on. There are just a million issues that have to do with the design of the physical environment, privacy, accessibility, all those kinds of things, noise. Are all part of that. So wayfinding is the term for how people understand where they are in space, figure out where they need to go, find and follow a route to that destination, recognize the destination when they get there, and then either repeat the process and go on to their next destination, or reverse it and find their way back to their starting point. Sounds very easy, but as you know from being out in the world, think of your favorite or least favorite hospital, airport, art museum, university, all these places, and those are just buildings. And then we have lots of outdoor places as well, that where people become confused and disoriented, and that has a lot of negative consequences. And so those are the kinds of issues that I dealt with in my non-arts professional life for 40 some years.
Oh my gosh, you both are so eminently practical. It's wow. It's not surprising that Playzoomers has gotten where it's gotten over the past 3.5 years and over 100 plays. That's amazing. Kudos to you both. I wish you the best, and may Playzoomers keep going for another 3.5, 10 years.
Thank you, George. And congratulations to you, and thanks to you for your podcast. I think the idea of making theater people and theater issues available is so important. It's an important part of keeping theater alive in the United States and around the world. And thank you so much for your part in that.
Well, thank you very much.
I echo that, George. Thank you. And again, if anybody would like to check out playzoomers.org, everything that we talked about and more is there.
Hey kids, thanks for listening to On Stage, Off Stage. On Stage, Off Stage is produced monthly, and all of our shows can be found at onstageoffstage.org, and also on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, and Google Podcasts. If you enjoy what we do, please recommend us to your friends. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at OnOffStage. And if you are a theater artist with an upcoming project or interest, or know of someone in the theater world who'd make good chat, by all means, send us a note at onstageoffstagepodcast@gmail.com. Our theme music is Don't Worry, Be Frappy by the composer Max Dickinson. You can find a lot more of Max's magnificent music on SoundCloud. I'm George Sapio. Thanks once again for listening, and please be kind to those with whom we share this rock. And as always, happy theatering to all of you.